Good morning, Atlantis. That song was for Brew.
Good morning, Shane. Thanks very much. It sounds like my kids are consistent with another blast from Chicago, and appreciate that morning wake-up call. Thank you.
No problem. Look forward to a great day.
Houston and ISS from Atlantis, physical separation.
Copy, good. Thank you very much.
Atlantis ISS, copy, physical separation.
Houston, Huntsville, Moscow, and Atlantis. Atlantis departure. Atlantis to ISS. Have a safe landing.
Thank you, ISS. Have a great remainder of your Expedition 15. We'll see you back on planet Earth.
Copy all, Atlantis. Godspeed, CJ. Thanks for everything.
Atlantis ISS, station is in attitude control. Atlantis copies. Thanks a lot, Clay.
Atlantis now 340 feet away from the International Space Station. The newly installed solar array wings installed during this joint mission coming into view on the left side of the screen, the starboard side of the International Space Station. Atlantis continuing to move away from the International Space Station at a rate of 0.2 of a foot per second, now 395 feet away. Also coming into view on top of the station is the P6 truss, which the solar array wing was retracted on during this mission. The wing to the left was previously extended before Atlantis arrived. now retracted, preparing that element for relocation out to the port side of the station to the right in this view later this year. Retraction of that wing also allowing the new arrays on the left to rotate and track the sun as the station orbits the Earth. The shadow of the Space Shuttle Atlantis reflected, cast on the solar array wings. Atlantis now 490 feet away from the International Space Station as it has begun its fly around of the complex, moving up above the space station. After this joint mission, the International Space Station appearing symmetrical with the two sets of solar array wings to provide electricity and the power needed to operate the station and its laboratories. With the installation of the new truss and solar array wings on the starboard side to the left in this view, the International Space Station now weighs 509,000 pounds. The additional power generated by the new solar array wings was needed in the assembly sequence here to add new laboratories provided by the European Space Agency and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, starting with the European lab later this year, Columbus, that will be installed on the Harmony Node 2 module that first will be brought up to the space station in October, then Columbus in December, and then the components of the Japanese laboratory Kibo beginning their launch aboard the space shuttle next year. This view showing the solar array wings extending towards the shuttle in a clocked position commanded by the team here in Mission Control to be rotated during the undocking to protect the delicate solar arrays. The Falcon flight control team that monitors the solar arrays and the power on board the space station will be unlocking those gimbal assemblies to allow the arrays to move to track the sun. Also, the alpha rotary joint, solar alpha rotary joint on the truss will be unlocked, allowing the entire array to follow the sun as the International Space Station orbits the Earth. The Space Shuttle Atlantis now 600 feet away from the International Space Station and directly above it. This is now a view from a camera on the outside of the International Space Station truss, looking at the Space Shuttle Atlantis, now 630 feet away from the complex. The Space Shuttle Atlantis 630 feet away from the International Space Station, now directly behind the space station. Continuing the fly around of the complex, allowing the Space Shuttle crew members to document the new configuration of the International Space Station. The Space Shuttle Atlantis currently 660 feet away from the International Space Station, continuing its fly around, moving down below the station now. The two vehicles orbiting 209 statute miles above the Atlantic Ocean, about to cross over Europe. Now 59 minutes since Atlantis undocked from the International Space Station, the two orbiting 210 statute miles above the Earth, passing over the coast of Portugal. This is Mission Control Houston with a view from a camera in the docking mechanism of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, now 1 hour and 8 minutes after Atlantis undocked from the station, continuing a fly around of the complex about
Houston, Atlantis, air to ground 2. Are you still getting KU down there?
We are getting KU, CJ, and we're watching the centerline camera video.
Okay, good news, and in just a couple of minutes we're going to give you 10 alpha.
Okay, copy that.
the Space Shuttle Atlantis, now 640 feet in front of the International Space Station. This view from the camera in the docking mechanism on board the Space Shuttle Atlantis, looking back towards the International Space Station as the two pass into night through an orbital sunset. This now a view from the Space Shuttle Atlantis, currently orbiting over the Atlantic Ocean with the International Space Station behind it. The space station actually in front of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, seen just above the Orbital Maneuvering System pod on the right in this view. This is Mission Control Houston, continuing to watch a view from the Space Shuttle Atlantis of the International Space Station. The crew on board Atlantis taking a break after undocking today for their mealtime and an opportunity to zoom in on the International Space Station using the shuttle cameras before getting to work with the inspection of Atlantis's heat shield.
Okay, Houston, here we are. It's Flight 812, undocking day, and Brew is setting us up to do the undocking. First thing you had to do is do the Group B power up, and then he recovered the IMUs for us. You can see him here doing some Spec 21 actions. Now we are in the undocking timeline, making sure all the jets are deselected, and the crew is discussing, per our excellent training, what we would do if we need to reselect a jet in the event of certain DPS failures. You can see the entire crew gets into position as we power up the logics and drivers. This is about 5 minutes prior to undocking. Okay, and just to be technically correct, we did the logics first and then the drivers per the procedure. Here's Pat following with JR, and they're working the APDS steps and pushing undocking at about 220 prior. Here you can see the ISS separating for the orbiter, and I'll let Brew take over the commentary.
Okay, after the undock, we slowly backed out to approximately 400 feet, 450 feet before we started our pitch around the International Space Station. As we moved out, Danny Olivas is working the RPOP machine as well as backing up the data from the TCS, which provides our range and range rate data. He's backing that up with some good handheld laser checks. View from the overhead window, as you can see the station backing away very slowly. We're moving out at about roughly 0.2 feet per second. Here's a view on the RPOP computer I mentioned before, and that just helps us monitor our corridor and our predicted corridor. As you can see, we're flying out on the bottom of that corridor and projected the angle on up. More views of a very symmetrical International Space Station now as we continue to back out on the what we call the V-bar.
Part of our requirements was to do photo documentation and a complete mapping of the station, and we did that as we backed out and then eventually used the 400 millimeter lens.
Looks like we're in the fly around here. Looks like as we backed out, it was nighttime, but during most of the fly around, it was daytime, and so you can see it's very bright now, and we are in the fly around, capturing the space station from 360 degrees all the way around. You gotta love that symmetrical space station now. Here we are after about 90 degrees, the RPOP machine showing us exactly where we're at. We're shooting to be at roughly 600 feet above the International Space Station as we hit the 90-degree point on our fly around.
So that was the last day that I'll probably see the International Space Station for quite some time. It was my home for 6 months, and pretty emotional event, and but I'm happy to come back to Earth.
As we continue to fly around the space station, as we go in every quadrant, the commander Rick Sturko and Steve Swanson are monitoring our computers up front and making sure the new data points are entered to keep us going in a 360-degree path around the space station as I kept us in position by flying with inputs on the THC and the F cockpit. Another nice view through the overhead window as we continue to track around the space station to its backside. Here you can see the RPOP machine showing again where we are in our path around the space station. We're now through about 270 degrees and on the bottom side of the space station coming up, and we're going to re-intercept the what we call the V-bar, about 650 foot out in front of the space station before we do our separation burn. This is a primary source of maintaining our position as we go around the space station. It's a COAS, it's just nothing but a reticle, and we try to keep the space station lined up somewhere near the center of that reticle as we transition all the way around the space station. And you see, looking up right now, we're looking up at the very bottom, looking straight forward. We call this, we're on the R bar.
As we get further away, the ability to photograph the space station gets a little bit more challenging, so we have a variety of lenses on board that we use for photo documentation. You saw Jim Riley there also doing taking some radar marks as we move further on out. You can see here from the computer that this essentially was a textbook separation and fly around by Lee Archambault.
And then the night came, and we had another sunrise, and now you can see off the tail, you should be able to see station. The station was a little hard to see. It was on the other side of the tail, and here we moved the tail a little bit over to get another view of station just off the tail as we departed it.
Here you can see pretty much the entire crew checking the cabin temp controller. Number 2. Number 1 was working fine, so we switched over to number 2. There if you look real close, you can see it moving. I'm sorry, but some things are just funnier in space. We're crying up here.
While waiting for the valve to move, Danny was putting some of our tapes together so we could get them back to Earth in a little more orderly manner. And as you can see, he was pretty much a physicist by training.
After undocking, we still had a full day ahead of PDRS or arm operations. We conduct what we call late inspection, where we take the boom out with the shuttle robotic arm, and we basically remap the leading edge of the wings and the nose cap again, very similar to what we did on flight day 2, just to make sure there was no damage while we were docked up there from MMOD. Brew used the arm to grapple the boom and pull it out of the bay today. Once we had it grappled, we put the orbiter in free drift and would begin by pulling the boom out and start the inspection.
As we pull the arm out of the bay, initially we bring it into a hover position, and then send it into an automated maneuver to begin our inspection on the starboard wing. Right now, we're just about getting into that hover position.
One of the main things that I have to get ready for before coming to Earth is just making sure my body's in good shape. I've been up here for 6 months, so do a little bit of bicycling as well as a little arm ergometry just to make sure the heart's pumping okay. It's one of the muscles that gets a little bit weaker up here in space because it doesn't have to work as hard.
And since Sunny was so busy working, I decided to go ahead and take a break for her and have a little bit of fun with some drops of juice. You can see doing some of these simple tricks is a challenge in space, but it's a lot of fun to do. And what I'm using to move that liquid around is actually dental floss, and you can see red and yellow makes kind of a marble color. That's a lifesaver in a water ball. It looked kind of like a big eye. Nice catch by Sunny there. Okay, this is a shot. You can still see the station. The Mission Control Center in Houston called us up and said it was about 9 miles away, and then we did a burn later on to move it out a little further away overnight. More views of the inspection at the orbiter hatch on the side hatch, sure. You can see the crew has up to 4 views to maintain clearance. Sometimes the boom is out of over the nose cap or over the wings, and so we use the different camera views, plus crew members looking out the forward windows to verify that everything is safe. Here's a shot of, as you can see, I believe Danny doing just that, checking the boom as it's over the forward. Have excellent tools. This is the DUG program developed by the crew at the VR lab. To say hi to Dave Holman and his team. They're invaluable for the kind of robotics work we're doing up here, as well as EVA preparation. And you can see the station was still out there. Oh, now this was, we had an object flow out of the payload bay. It looked kind of like a spider, but we looked at it a little more closely and took some pictures of the 400 millimeter lens. Turned out to be a washer that's used to hold down blankets in the payload bay and with string, and we have sent pictures of that to the Mission Control Center in Houston with our STS-117 camera.
And once the inspection was done, we put the boom back in place and then put the arm away, and that should be it for the rest of the mission as far as the PDRS operations.
And after Pat birthed the OBSS boom, we went ahead and put the SSRMS, the SRMS away for the night. Houston, that's it for the playback for tonight.
Okay, CJ, hey, thanks a lot. Just want to really pass on our thanks for taking the time each day to put those highlights together. We kept you guys extremely busy. The fact that you guys took the time to go the extra mile and put those things together is really appreciated here on the ground. Especially today, we enjoyed the onboard annex, and seeing the dynamics of the cabin temp controller was a real treat.
Yeah, we're thinking about playing it back right before we go to bed just to watch it again.
All right, send it our way. So special thanks for that. And this is the last Orbit 2 shift for your Orbit 2 flight director, Mr. Lunny, since he's going to be working with your entry team. So I made GC enable the loops here so he could say goodnight to you.
Oh, that'll be great. We'll love to talk to him.
Hey, CJ, this is Brian here. Just want to say goodnight. We're going to begin the flight director shuffle. Kathy will be Orbit 2 tomorrow night, and I'm going to go work on your weather for you. Looking forward to doing that for you.
Oh, we sure appreciate it, flight, and get us some good weather for Thursday if you can. It doesn't have to be good, it just has to be good enough.
We all agree with that, and we're doing our best.
Thank you very much, sir.
Die US-Raumfähre Atlantis hat sich nach 12 Tagen im Orbit auf den Weg zurück zur Erde gemacht. Nachdem die letzten Außeneinsätze zufriedenstellend verlaufen waren, konnte die Raumfähre planmäßig von der internationalen Raumstation ISS ablegen. Am Donnerstag soll die Atlantis in Florida landen.
1,5 Wochen im All hat die US-Raumfähre Atlantis von der internationalen Raumstation abgedockt und ihre Heimreise angetreten. Zuvor hatte die Besatzung auf der ISS Probleme mit Computern und klemmenden Sonnensegeln bewältigt. Am Donnerstag soll die Atlantis in Florida landen.
Good morning, Atlantis. That song was for Sunny.
Good morning, Shannon. Good morning, everyone from Orbit 3. Thank you very much to my family, my husband, and, of course, my dog. I can't wait to be home, and I'm not sure I got $1 million, but that's okay. I just can't wait to be home.
Sounds great, Sunny. We're ready for you, too.
NBC, this is Houston. Please call Atlantis for a voice check.
Atlantis, this is NBC News Washington. How do you copy?
We have you loud and clear. How many?
Well, hello to all of you. It's nice to see you, and as you might expect, we'd love to ask each one of you a question, but time is of the essence here, so if you don't mind, we'll get right to it. And to Sonny Williams first, congratulations on the record that you have set for women in space. Give us a sense of what you're looking forward to. You've been in space now since December. What are you going to do when you get back to Earth?
Well, thanks for the question. First off, I'm just can't wait to get back and feel air on my face and a sea breeze. I'm looking forward to hopefully going to the beach and taking a walk with my husband and my dog. So that's the first thing. And secondly, I just can't wait for a good piece of pizza.
I was just going to ask, what have you missed the most? What are you craving? What will you do when you get back to Earth?
Well, I think those three things, wrap it up first. One of the bad things, though. I think I'm going to have a lot flatter hair when I get back, so I think I'm going to have to work on getting a haircut as soon as I get back so it looks a little bit normal. I have been living like this with hair up and flying around for a little while, so it's going to be funny to see what it looks like when I get home. So I think I'm in line for a good haircut.
Sonny, this computer glitch on the space station had a lot of people here on the ground very worried, and they finally managed to get the computers back up and running after bypassing that faulty switch. How confident are you right now that the computer problems are fixed and that the station is, in fact, stable?
Well, I have to say, I am not an expert on the Russian computer systems, and we have a general overview of how the systems work and how they interface with the U.S. system, so I don't think I'm an expert to answer that question. However, when we left, they had the computers up and running the Russian parts of the station, which needed those computers to work. I think I read, probably just as you did, we don't know the exact cause of the problem, and so I think there's some further fixes that they're going to need to do. But the state of the station is fine right now. It's back to its normal condition.
This was described as almost a modern-day Apollo 13 moment where all of the best minds at NASA and in the Russian space agencies came together to figure this problem out. What does it say about the state of the relationships, the working relationship between the U.S. and the Russian space agencies?
I think the relationship is excellent. We came together with our Russian partners, and the Mission Control Center in Houston and Moscow got together and solved the problem and got the mission accomplished. So I think it's an excellent example. I'm glad you brought it up.
To Danny Olivas, I know this is your first time in space, and this was you had a couple of spacewalks under your belt, and everybody was watching so closely as you tucked that thermal blanket back in. Can you describe what were your thoughts when you first showed up and you got a good look at it? What did you think, and then how did you fix the problem?
Well, luckily we had a good ground team that did a tremendous amount of work before the EVA, and so a lot of the questions that we had going into the EVA were actually already answered. And so when I got out there, I felt really well prepared to deal with the situation, and pretty much everything that they described on the ground that I was going to see and that I needed to do happened exactly that way on the blanket. So I felt very confident out there that I had a good ground team supporting us.
Did you take home ec in high school? I mean, you seem to be pretty good at the stapling and the sewing action there, Danny.
Oh, I listened to Mom when I was growing up, and so I think she taught me well.
Well, Commander Rick Sturkow, how confident do you feel about Atlantis now returning to Earth, depending on the sewing and the stapling of Danny up there near the OMS rocket?
Well, we had an excellent view through Danny's helmet cam, and of course we listened to all the pre-flight briefings and got good word back from Mission Control Center Houston that everything looks great.
And Rick, this was described as one of the most successful yet challenging construction missions to the International Space Station. How do you believe space historians will write about your particular mission?
Well, I hope they just say that we came up here and got the job done.
A man of few words, is there? Hopefully they'll say something more than that, I would think, huh?
You never know what challenges that you're going to face when you train for a mission. Obviously, we train for what we call a nominal task, and then we do some further training in case something does come up. And so hopefully what this will really reflect on is the type of training that they put us through, the ground teams, and those that prepare us to go to space, that when they send us off, we, are ready to do whatever mission comes up.
And what does it say about the overall space program and the desire to move on to the moon, to complete the space station and then move on to the moon?
And one of the things that kind of caught my attention as we were leaving yesterday was that that piece of machinery is an incredibly complex operation, and it's been amazing we've been able to pull it all off. And it's, if anything, it's telling us that we can take those steps. Even though that might be the first small step, it's going to be the beginning of our destiny as we move out into the planet. And as we go onto the moon, the space station is going to tell us an awful lot about the nuts and bolts of just living in space, which is one of the most important things we need yet to learn.
Well, congratulations on a great mission. It's nice to see you all. You delivered some beautiful pictures and video, and Sonny, we're excited to see you back on Earth. So have a safe trip home.
Atlantis, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the NBC portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from ABC.
Atlantis, this is ABC. How do you hear me?
We have you loud and clear, ABC. How many?
Sonny, let me start with you. If you were going to design your dream mission, what would that mission be?
Well, you know, I can't imagine anything better than what I just came off of. You know, I had the whole gamut from working the robotics in the beginning with STS-117, doing EVAs during the stage with Michael Lopez Alegria, having 2 expedition crews up there, and then adding on another solar array, in the meantime doing a bunch of science. So I don't think I could ask for anything better, and hopefully the stuff that we did there will be a small contribution to getting us back to the moon, because we did a lot of neat stuff in the engineering field, in the medical field, in the scientific field. I think we did the full gamut, so I think I'm very fortunate, and I can't ask for anything, couldn't have asked for anything better.
Do you ever think about going to the moon?
Absolutely. We saw it out the back window as we were flying today, and you know, you look at it and you think hopefully we're making strides, and we're finding out, you know, how we're actually going to be able to maybe build a space station there, maybe live there, and hopefully we're doing some of that while building the space station and living up there. So absolutely, I think all of us have that in the back of our mind. All of us have probably seen the Apollo guys walk on the moon and think, wow, that would be neat, and we'd love to do it.
This next question is for all of the dads who spent Father's Day on orbit. I'd like to know what you each told your children about the spacewalks and about this mission and about operating the robotics. If you would each take a turn and give that a shot, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'll take the first shot at it, then I'll give the mic over to Swanee. I was one of the robotics guys, and I did share with my kids through email the experience of what it was like to operate the robotic arm. And it was very exciting, not only to operate the robotic arm with our payload, but also with 2 EVA crew partners, one Daniel Levis and the other Jim Riley, in addition to Pat Forrester. So it was very exciting to work the robotic arm, and a lot of different activities that we planned for and some that we didn't plan for. And I'll also share with them that it was a nice time in that I missed my daughter's birthday, and so I wished her on Father's Day also the same thing, a happy birthday. And
Pat and I were out spacewalking on Father's Day. We had a wonderful time, and I tried to tell my kids here all about that, how much I enjoyed it. The views were great. I just tried to pass that along to them and the feelings that I went through during that spacewalk. I had a really good time, and it was probably the best Father's Day I ever had, except probably, of course, the births of my children. It was wonderful.
And for Commander Sturkow, you saw the space station when it was just very newly built, and you've just completed a very challenging mission. Compare the space station on your first flight up there and what you saw as you left this last time.
Well, obviously it's a lot bigger now, and I think the thought that comes to mind is that this took a lot of work to put all this equipment and hardware up there, and to get it constructed by a very talented group of folks that designed and built it, and then the folks that are challenged with operating it. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we read in the media that might be considered negative about the space program, but it kind of takes your breath away when you think of how hard it is to do all this, and I think everybody that works on it ought to be very proud of how far we've come so far and where we're going in the future.
And for Jim Riley, before you left, we talked to you about being a construction guy in space. Tell me what you found the most challenging part of your construction mission up there.
Probably the most challenging part was getting used to the environment again a little bit. It's out at the end of the truss when we were hanging out over the Earth. One of the things that kind of struck me the first time we got out there was there wasn't really anything between me and the
surface of the earth a couple hundred miles below, but the soles of my boots. And that was kind of an awe-inspiring moment. You just kind of have to focus back on the task and kind of forget the environment around you. But every once in a while, you take that 10 seconds and look around, and it's really one of those things you'll remember forever.
And for Danny Olivas, a lot of people in Texas were following your mission. How aware were you, and were you ever able to see El Paso as you flew over?
Yeah, I've actually tried on several occasions. I didn't see El Paso while I was out doing EVA, but while I was back on Shuttle, we did make several passes over El Paso. And sometimes it was cloudy, sometimes a little bit more open, but I haven't had an opportunity to see it. I'm hoping to try and get a good shot, a good photograph of it.
And I have one final closing question for Sonny Williams. Where will Gorby be when you come home? And how soon will you see Gorby?
That's a great question because I'm not exactly sure where he'll be when we land. Hopefully we'll be landing tomorrow, which means he'll be up in Massachusetts. He should be back in Texas by the weekend, so I should be able to take him for a walk on the beach by Sunday morning, I think.
Thank you very much, STS-117 from ABC News.
Thanks a lot.
Atlantis, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the ABC portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from CNN.
Atlantis, this is CNN New York. How do you hear?
We have you loud and clear, CNN. How me?
5 by 5. It's Miles. How you all doing up there? You guys look great. Good to see you. CJ, your hair looks good in space. Got to tell you that.
Thank you very much. It meets the Marine Corps grooming standards. I got actually a haircut from a Russian Station Commander Fyodor Yurchikhin, and he did a good job. It was free also.
I guess that gives new meaning to the term high and tight, doesn't it?
Well said.
All right, let's begin with you, CJ. I'm hearing that the late inspections came out well, and you guys are going to be clear to go in and come back home. But I'm still curious about all that debris that we saw when you undocked. What's your best guess on what all that was?
Well, we didn't get to see the stuff that came off near the space station. We reported some stuff later in the afternoon. It was very minor, just a little washer and some threads that hold the blankets on in the payload bay. So we're not expecting any problems during entry. As you know, the doors are closed, and it should be fine.
And Atlantis, Houston ACR, please stand by.
You guys hear me now?
Got you 5 by 5, Miles.
All right, well, we're out of time. Drive safely. Thanks very much. Now, let's see if we can squeeze any of this in. Sonny, my apologies, elbow on the wrong button here. Let's talk about Sonny Williams. You have a space record. You beat Shannon Lucid's record. And yet, here on Earth, your dog is more famous. The flat Gorby tail has spread all around the world. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think that's pretty cool. One of the reasons I brought up Gorby in the first place, and I was asked this question before about how my husband Mike feels about this, and the reason I brought it up was, kids can relate to a dog. They don't necessarily relate to things that adults relate to, and I think everybody can understand that you have a passion for a pet, and it's something that you miss while you're up here. And I think that was sort of universal, and obviously it was, and it spread, and I think that's pretty neat.
Now, I assume you'll get a chance to probably go to the White House. And when you go to the White House, will you bring Gorby, and will Gorby get a chance to see Barney?
I don't know about that. He's not always, the best traveling companion, so I'm not sure he would be that polite in the White House. I got to watch where he might make a mark and stuff like that. So I'm not positive I'll bring him to the White House.
I guess soiling the White House would be a violation of protocol, wouldn't it?
Somebody might have an issue with that, that's for sure.
Pass the microphone up to JR. We're talking now to Jim Riley. Jim, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that wonderful picture as you guys pulled away from the space station. A lot of people down here have been talking about Star Wars TIE fighters and all that and how cool it looked. You're a man who can wax eloquent. I've seen you do it before. You've helped me filibuster through hours of television in the past. Give us a little poetry on what it was like to see that thing.
As we were pulling away from it, first thing that struck me is that it's really a complex machine, and it's one great accomplishment for being able to pull this off over the last few years and put together this machine that truly is the first really permanent international human outpost in space, and it's our first real step off the planet. And hopefully that's just the first of many steps beginning here that will extend to the moon and Mars and continue our trek through the planet.
But there's just kind of a cool factor there, too, isn't there?
Way cool would be the way I'd put it, yeah.
Pass it over to Danny. Danny, great work on the... you proved in a couple of ways you're good with your hands in space. You did a good job tucking in that blanket. You used the stapler to do your job. And then I saw you making a taco. And you were really good. Not bad for a rookie.
I think that's actually one of the requirements. If you come from El Paso, you definitely learn how to make Mexican food. My mom was a wonderful cook, and so she taught me well. Although I have to admit, the preparation here in space is a little bit more challenging than it is in El Paso.
Yeah, you did pretty well, though. Let me ask you this. So everybody I've run into says, wait a minute, this is space. It's the shuttle. It's a $2 billion, the most complicated machine on the planet, and we're holding it together with staples? How would you respond to that comment from people?
Well, I would respond to it based on the aerothermal analysis that has been done to demonstrate that the regime that blanket needs to stay in place doesn't really see a whole lot of aerodynamic loading. It's only when you get down low that the loading will get a little bit higher on that blanket, and the blanket's chief purpose is to protect the OMS pod during entry, and so when you don't have a whole lot of load on it, you don't need a lot to hold it on, and that's the reason why it's stitched together the way that it is. So I think the engineers down at NASA did an awesome job in coming up with a very quick, sensible solution. It was, obviously easy enough that I could do it, and they did an awesome job, and I definitely trust their analysis.
So the stapler, we have proven the stapler is astronaut-proof. Let's send that mic over to CJ, and I want to ask you a question about the station in general. What we learned a little something about complexity, I think, over this mission. You add some solar arrays, and for whatever reason, whether it's, friction in the wisps of the atmosphere there, whatever it is, it causes this huge computer meltdown. When you're on the ground and you're being debriefed, what would be your recommendation for future crews and future missions to try to guard against these kinds of things coming to bite you?
I'm sure folks will be working on that for a long time. The part of the first step is going to be just to understand the problem. I don't think it's clearly understood yet. They've got a good workaround, but some more analysis needs to be done that. And then, it was unexpected, but that's part of what we've been talking about, Miles, is that there's going to be encountering unexpected circumstances. It kind of felt like a bad sim case at the time it was happening, and had we been in the simulator at Johnson Space Center, we'd say, no way that would be going on right now. So, but again, the team was up to the challenge, and the folks figured a good way to get around it.
So this is the mission of staples and jumper cables. I'm curious, your Russian colleagues up there must have been pretty gratified that a few jumper cables saved the day. I mean, they must have been sweating it.
I think they're very proud that the team came up with a good idea that worked. With margin to spare, we were doing a lot of conservation efforts over here on the shuttle in case we needed to stay docked a few extra days, and then it turned out it wasn't necessary. So NASA did everything on their part, and the Russian Space Agency came through too. So our hats off to them for a great job.
One quick final one for Sonny. I'm out of time, way out of time, because I messed up. Sonny, I saw it was a very touching goodbye to Mission Control that you gave. Can you just try to encapsulate the emotions that were going through your mind as you left the station after 6 months, that record stay?
Well, Miles, I'll quickly say, you know, when you stay somewhere for 6 months, it becomes your home, and it's hard to leave. And it's, I feel that I was able to pass on a good station, at least, you know, everything that I was able to touch to Clay, and he's going to do a wonderful job up there. So I'm just proud of him.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience with the non-rocket scientist here. Godspeed, Atlantis, and we'll see you on the ground tomorrow, we hope, weather permitting.
Atlantis, Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thanks.
NBC, ABC, and CNN, thank you. And Atlantis, we're now resuming operational air-to-ground count.
Atlantis, roger. Hey, Kevin, about 10 minutes till bedtime here. I just wanted to tag up with you and describe that the cockpit setup is been in stow, is largely complete. All the seats are set up, all the O2 and cooling hoses are routed. As JR described, he has already closed out the airlock in Block 3 Alpha. He's got the 5 MLE bags all cinched down, and everything is looking very orderly and ready for entry. So the crew has done a great job pulling together to get ourselves set up. We also have the fluid loading kits deployed, and we'll be ready tomorrow if the weather cooperates.
Okay, CJ, outstanding work. We'll make notes of all that and pass it on to your entry team, and have a good night's sleep, and good luck with the entry tomorrow.
Okay, thanks a lot. Also, Kevin, our crew, the STS-117 crew, would like to recognize our Orbit 1 flight director, now our Orbit 2 flight director, Kathy Kerner. As you know, this will be Kathy's last mission. We hope this will be Kathy's last shift as a flight director tonight if we re-enter tomorrow. But we just really appreciate all her dedication to the job and her leadership. And several of us have Capcom for Kathy in the control room and know she's a joy to work with. So it's a real honor to thank her from Orbit. And she's not going far, and we look forward to continue to work with her there at the Johnson Space Center.
Atlantis, Houston. CJ, this is Kathy. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve with you on this mission.
Thanks a lot, Kathy. It's great to hear your voice, and we hope to see you back in Houston real soon.
We're looking forward to watching a pretty entry tomorrow.
Sounds great, Flight. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Atlantis, Houston for the timeline and the weather.
Go ahead, Houston.
Yeah, CJ, I think you know how this works. It's never easy. We got rain showers within the 30-mile circle, and the ceiling is kind of hanging out right at the flight rule limit, above it sometimes and below it other times. So we're going to wave off this rev. We're going to give you a no-go for fluid loading. Basically going to hold right here in the checklist. We need just a couple of minutes to figure out our game plan with where we want you to pick back up, and then we'll try to get off the loops for a little bit. But just give me a few minutes here to get the rest of the story together.
Okay, we copy. No-go for fluid loading, and we'll just stand by right here, Houston. No hurry.
Okay, and the rest of the story on the weather is the rain showers are developing just a little bit west of the SLF. They're moving off to the east once they develop, and we're going to watch it for a little bit and see how the next rev looks.
Okay, yeah, sounds like they're moving across the field then.
That's exactly right. So they're building just to the west of the field and moving across the field, and then our hopes are that if they stop developing, the ones that are there will move across, and maybe we'll have a shot at the next rev.
Okay, that sounds like a great game plan, Houston. We appreciate your checking.
This is Mission Control Houston. That call from astronaut Tony Antonelli here in the shuttle flight control room to Commander Rick Sturko on board Atlantis, that the weather forecast not cooperating for the first landing opportunity at the Kennedy Space Center today. There is a second opportunity that the teams will continue to evaluate the weather for, and at the moment the crew will stand by in the deorbit preparations. The next opportunity for Atlantis to land at the Kennedy Space Center today, the second opportunity of the day, includes a deorbit burn at 1:25 p.m. Central Time, and that follows with a landing at 2:30 p.m. Central or 3:30 p.m. Eastern there at the landing site. The Spaceflight Meteorology Group here, forecaster Tim Orm, discussing the weather conditions with Entry Flight Director Norm Knight just before that call to the crew, and the showers observed in the area within the 30 nautical mile radius of the landing facility are giving an observed no-go at this moment, and the team will continue to watch showers that are building to the west of the Kennedy Space Center, and those tracking to the east towards the landing facility.
Atlantis, Houston for the timeline.
Go ahead, Houston.
Yeah, we looked as hard and as long as we think is reasonable. The rain showers and the ceilings are going to keep us from making it into Florida today. For the timeline, we're ready for you to flip over to deorbit prep back out, page 2-3, and which is the summary, and then 2-5 for the specifics. And if you can start in block 2, which is rad activation, that'll be best for us for water, and we'll go up and pick up the stuff on the top of the page of 2-5 after we get block 2 complete.
Okay, Houston, here comes block 2 on page 2-5.
This is Mission Control Houston, the team here in the shuttle flight control room now assisting with the crew on board Atlantis back out of the deorbit preparations, with the weather forecast at the Kennedy Space Center not going to be acceptable for landing at the shuttle landing facility today. At the two opportunities to land at the Kennedy Space Center, both cloud coverage and precipitation in the area a concern. This second landing opportunity would have forecasted thunderstorms within the 30 nautical mile radius of the landing facility, with some observed thunderstorms currently in the Melbourne, Florida area. The crew working back through procedures to reactivate systems, including the radiators, and opening the payload bay doors to dissipate heat from the shuttle systems.
I got some words on the big picture kind of game plan for today and tomorrow when you're ready.
Go ahead, we're ready to copy.
Okay, CJ, the weather forecast for KSC and also what we had given you for Edwards hasn't changed too much for tomorrow, so we're going to be fighting the same challenges at KSC. At Edwards, the winds are going to pick up. So what we've come up with is in about 3 hours, we're going to do an 11 foot per second burn. And what that's going to do for us is pull in an earlier KSC opportunity. We'll have one rev earlier to Edwards, pull in an earlier Edwards opportunity, and have the potential to get in there before the winds pick up. It's an 11 foot per second burn. We'll do it 2+X. It'll be about a 1 minute burn, and we'll get into the Group C power down, and we think we should be able to do that burn in the Group C power down config. And of course, I'll have more words for you to walk you through the specifics. I just wanted to give you where we were heading.
Okay, so understand if we don't get into KSC tomorrow, then you're shooting for Edwards after you get 2 looks at KSC.
Yeah, so we are, of course, calling up Edwards tomorrow. We'll have the first look at KSC. Now the second look at KSC will overlap with the first look at Edwards. And, of course, after the end of today, we'll have a better look at the Saturday forecast. So, we're going to put all that into the equation. But we'll be calling up both KSC and Edwards tomorrow.
Okay, we understand. So tomorrow, if you don't get into KSC and the weather is good at Edwards, you intend to go to Edwards. But if the weather is bad at both places, then we'll look at Saturday and see what happens.
Yeah, and we are, if the weather is good at Edwards tomorrow, just like you said, we're going to, and not at KSC, then we're going to land there. We are going to try to land tomorrow.
Okay, yep, we understand that. Thank you very much, Houston. Sounds like a great game plan.
Okay, thanks for making sure we were clear and on the same page.
This is Mission Control Houston, astronaut Tony Antonelli speaking with Commander Rick Sturckow. Sturckow on board the Space Shuttle Atlantis about the opportunities for landing Atlantis tomorrow. The Kennedy Space Center and the backup landing site at the Edwards Air Force Base in California will both have opportunities for landing, and the team will assess the weather conditions at both of those sites tomorrow. The team has also developed an orbit adjust burn to change Atlantis' orbit to include an additional landing opportunity at Edwards than originally planned, if that will help with the flexibility for landing Atlantis tomorrow. There are also opportunities to land on Saturday at all of the landing sites as well.
We're not going to do it today. The weather doesn't look very nice at Kennedy, so tomorrow afternoon I'll tell you the specific times right now. Let's see.
Can you control the weather, though? That's what
no,
we
we can't. Well, I have my connections, you know. But
time to get on that. Pick up the phone, will you?
I'm going to remain quiet there. Okay, let's see. That's what's going on. Well, they are saying officially tomorrow 2:16 p.m. and 3:51 p.m. would be the next landing opportunities. The problem is that we have now showers within 34 miles, and there were clouds within 8,000 feet of the landing strip at Kennedy Space Center. Both violations, and this is the most important thing, of flight rules. So despite the fact we say, hey, but they're not significant storms over there, why are we doing this? Well, there is a system we have to follow here, and they follow it very, very closely. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Here you have it. Let's get a little bit closer. You're going to see there's a low here off the coast, and that's turning around, and all the storms or the clouds and the rain is there close by. So bad luck. And also delays at airports in the States every day now in the summer. And today is the official start of the summer. So we are going to see delays at many airports all over the world. We'll check out Europe. Is not in bad shape, but you see how now it's pouring, especially in Poland here, also in Hungary and in Austria, especially the northern parts. We will continue to see bad weather over there. It's improving a little bit in Germany and in Britain. Let's see.
Atlantis, Houston for the timeline and the game plan.
Go ahead, Houston.
Yeah, CJ, the showers are not pushing out of the circle at KSC like we were hoping, so we're going to wave off this rev. For the timeline, you can just hold right here. We're going to take a hard look at KSC for this next rev, Rev 219. And we'll also be looking at Edwards. If you need to set a timer, I guess you can use the time. Edwards 219 should be the first one, which will be about 19:05:35.
Okay, Houston, we're going to set up for 19:05:35 in the timer, and then we understand that it'll push out 6 minutes later if the weather improves at KSC.
Yeah, that's a rough hack. I'll get you the exact numbers when we get them.
That's close enough. Thanks a lot, Houston.
This is Mission Control Houston, astronaut Tony Antonelli calling up to Atlantis' crew, including information that the team is still monitoring the weather conditions at the Kennedy Space Center, and we'll continue to watch those. We'll pass up the first landing opportunity there, and then on the next orbit of Atlantis' flight, there is an opportunity to first the backup landing site at the Edwards Air Force Base. That includes a deorbit burn at 1:43 p.m. Central Time and would result in landing at 2:49 p.m. Central or 12:49 p.m. Pacific there on the West Coast. The same orbit includes a landing opportunity to the Kennedy Space Center. That deorbit burn would be at 1:50 p.m. Central Time, resulting in landing at 2:55 p.m. Central or 3:55 p.m. Eastern. The team will continue to watch the weather conditions at both sites, again watching the showers in the 30 nautical mile radius in the area of the landing facility at the Kennedy Space Center.
We'll check flight.
Yeah. Atlantis, Houston, you are go for the deorbit burn.
Go ahead on the one orbit late available side.
Okay, CJ, line 8 or tanks 4 and 5. You can strike line 12, 16, and 18.
Press, good config for the burn.
Capcom, good config for the burn.
Atlantis, Houston, good config for the burn.
Copy, Houston, good config for the burn.
Burn is enabled. Copy, burn's enabled.
Here we go.
Over here. Safe HP. Copy, safe HP. Good burn, trim not required.
Good burn. Atlantis, Houston, good burn, no trim required.
GNC secondary actuator check not required?
Not required.
Prop looking for forward RCS dump time.
Get that to you here in a few seconds, fine.
Copy. And max high fluid thermal conditioning not required?
Will not be required today.
Copy.
It's either on the ground or it's up in the air. It's on access, it's up here. It's up there.
Complete. We're standing by on 3-40 for EI-13.
Okay, we're with you. We'll take remaining APU start on time. If you want to look ahead on 342, the high fluid thermal conditioning will not be required.
Okay, on time for the remaining APUs, and we will not perform high fluid thermal conditioning.
That's a good copy.
Fido.
2 low elevation C-bands, show us on energy and on ground track.
Nav is go. Take TACAN and take GPS.
Atlantis, Houston, we're with you on Dryden.
Got your launch clear on Dryden, Houston.
Loud and clear in Atlantis, energy, ground track, and nav are go. We have you touching down 2,600 feet at 195, and you can take TACAN.
Copy, 2,600, 195, here kind of TACAN.
Flight GMC.
Atlantis, Houston, take air data.
Taking air data.
Okay, folks, let's watch them roll on the hack here. On at the 180.
Atlantis, on at the 180.
Yeah, we're right on. Max, good gear. Gear standby locked. Main gear touchdown. Copy. Nose gear touchdown.
Ground speed enabled.
Seated immediate pulse landing Deltas Max. No immediate. Eagle.
None.
Ecom.
None.
GNC.
None.
Prop.
No Delta.
CPS.
None.
Inco.
None.
Booster.
None.
Okay, Capcom momentum on 5-3.
Houston, Atlantis, wheel stop.
Atlantis, Houston, copy, wheel stop. Welcome back. Congratulations on a great mission. Good job installing the S3, S4, continuing to expand the space station in preparation for adding modules from more of our international partners and stepping stones for the rest of the NASA exploration plan.
We copy ET. Those doors are coming open in Mexico. Flight on command.
Willkommen, meine Damen und Herren. Bevor wir Ihnen gleich den zweiten Teil vom Thema des Tages zeigen, gehen wir live nach Kalifornien. Dort ist die US-Raumfähre Atlantis im Anflug auf den Luftwaffenstützpunkt Edwards. Ja, es gab ein langes Rätselraten darum, wo denn nun diese Raumfähre landen würde. Geplant war Florida, Cape Canaveral, was natürlich einfacher wäre für die NASA. Man hat sich aber wegen des schlechten Wetters entschlossen, nun sozusagen umzuleiten auf diesen Luftwaffenstützpunkt. Und am Telefon begrüße ich Gerhard Daum. Er ist Raumfahrtjournalist. Er hat Dutzende Missionen vor Ort in Cape Canaveral, in Houston oder auch in Russland miterlebt. Herr Daum, es sieht zwar so aus wie eine normale Landung, was wir hoffentlich dann gleich sehen werden, aber was passiert eigentlich im Vorfeld?
Erst einmal guten Abend. So wie es jetzt aussieht, wird es auch eine normale Landung sein. Also im Vorfeld sieht es so aus, etwa 65 Minuten vor dem sogenannten Touchdown wird die Bremszündung im All vorgenommen und die Raumfähre wird schon etwa um 300 Kilometer, die Geschwindigkeit wird abgebaut und es wird dann von einer Kreisbahn praktisch in eine elliptische Bahn die Flugbahn umgewandelt und dann beginnt der Abstieg in die Erdatmosphäre.
Nun, bei dem Wort Erdatmosphäre werden sicher viele Zuschauer sich an schlimmste Dinge erinnern. Sie haben dieses Raumfahrtprogramm ja von Anfang an auch mitverfolgt. Kann man heute nach den Unfällen, natürlich Columbia und Challenger, sagen, dass man wieder Vertrauen in dieses Fluggerät haben kann?
Um das mal auf die Landung zu beziehen, auf jeden Fall. Diese Landung, die läuft genauso reibungslos ab wie alle anderen Landungen bisher. Bei der Columbia gab es ja dieses Problem, mit diesen sogenannten RCC-Panel, das heißt an der Flügelspitze diese grauen Paneele, die müssen eine Temperatur von 1800 Grad Celsius aushalten. Und beim Start, was ja bekannt war, wurde da eines solcher Paneele beschädigt. Und dadurch ist durch diese starke Hitzeentwicklung praktisch die Raumfähre dadurch zerstört worden.
Ja, wir sehen hier die Atlantis ja, sanft im Anflug, zumindest sieht es auf dem Bildschirm so aus. Herr Daum, es gab aber in der Luft, wie wir alle erfahren haben, im All besser gesagt, einigermaßen Probleme. Es gab Computerabsturz, es gab andere Notreparaturen. Ist dieses System einfach immer noch sehr anfällig oder würden Sie das als Zufall bezeichnen?
Als anfällig würde ich das nicht bezeichnen. Es sind ja zwei verschiedene Dinge. Das Computerproblem, das war ja in der Raumstation. Das hatte ja mit der Raumfähre an sich nichts zu tun. Und bei der Raumfähre war ja diese an dem OMS-Port, das heißt hinten links an der Steuerdüse, an dieser Verkleidung, da ist eine Hitzeschutzmatte, da hat sich diese Ecke praktisch nach oben geknickt beim Start. Das war aber wirklich eine ganz minimale Sache. Bei der ersten Mission 1981 waren da noch Hitzeschutzkarren und da wurden an beiden OMS-Pods sind 16 Karren verloren gegangen. Das war also viel, viel schlimmer und die Raumfähre ist damals ja ganz normal zur Erde zurückgekommen. Es gab überhaupt keine Probleme, weil auch an dieser Stelle nur maximal 300 Grad Celsius entstehen. Aber es wurde einfach, um die Reparaturtechnik auch praktisch zu testen, weil halt auch dann so ein Mini-Notfall da war, wurde auch bei dem beim dritten Ausstieg wurde dann diese Reparatur von dem Danny Olivas vorgenommen.
So, jetzt sehen wir hier, wie das Fahrgestell ausgefahren wurde.
Jetzt kommt der Endanflug. Jetzt hat auch der Commander die Steuerung übernommen und fliegt den Endanflug per Hand. Zurzeit fliegt sie noch mit 20 Grad Neigungswinkel und etwa 15 Sekunden vorm Aufsetzen wird sie in das sogenannte Pre-Flare genommen, das heißt mehr in die Horizontale. Dann wird das Fahrwerk ausgelöst und etwa 8 Sekunden vorm Aufsetzen ist das Fahrwerk eingerastet und dann nimmt der Commander sie im wahrsten Sinne des Wortes in das Full Flare, das heißt, er hebt die Nase an und setzt sie dann mit dem Hauptfahrwerk zuerst auf. Und wenn das Hauptfahrwerk aufgesetzt ist, dann kommt auch dieser Bremsfallschirm noch von hinten.
Ja, das können wir hier gerade schön sehen.
Moment, jetzt ist etwa 15 Sekunden vor dem Touchdown. Das Fahrwerk kommt raus. Und jetzt hat er sie noch im Full Flare und jetzt nimmt er ganz langsam die Nase hoch.
Na, da scheint also, Sie haben uns die Landung sehr schön beschreiben können. Offenbar zeitverzögerte Bilder, die Sie dort haben. Aber wir haben alles genau gesehen und mit Ihrer Beschreibung, Herr Daum, sehr schön nachvollziehen können. Ein ganz kurzer Ausblick, Herr Daum, Zukunft, was wird dieses Shuttle noch bringen?
Die Raumfähre Atlantis oder Sie meinen allgemein das Shuttle-Programm?
Ich meine das Shuttle-Programm.
Ja, es wird also noch 14 Missionen jetzt geben, weil ja in 2010 die Shuttle-Ära zu Ende geht. Und es wird also von diesen 14 Missionen, gehen 13 Missionen noch zur ISS, um diese fertig zu bauen. Und eine Mission nächstes Jahr am 10. September soll die letzte Service-Mission zum Hubble-Teleskop sein.
Ja, besten Dank für Ihren Kommentar. Gerhard Daum war das, Weltraumjournalist. Und bei uns geht es nun weiter mit dem zweiten Teil unseres Thema des Tages. Danke für Ihr Interesse.
They don't really kick the tires. Leroy, thanks for talking the shuttle down with us. Leroy Chow, 3-time shuttle flyer, 1-time 6-month stay station keeper on board the International Space Station. We appreciate you being with us today.
My pleasure to be here, Miles. Thanks to both of you, Miles and Mr. Chow, Leroy Chow. Human's job you did there, Miles. CNN Newsroom will continue after this. We're certainly glad that the astronauts are back home in the Space Shuttle Atlantis. Everyone is safe. We're back in a moment.
17,000 feet, traveling at 428 miles per hour.
Runway in sight.
Houston copies.
This is a view from the heads-up display. One minute to touchdown. Landing gear is down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Nose gear touchdown. Atlantis rolling out on runway 22 at Edwards Air Force Base, wrapping up a 5.8 million mile mission. Atlantis completing its 28th mission, leaving the International Space Station with more power generation capability and bringing home Expedition 15 astronaut Sunny Williams after 195 days in space.
Houston, Atlantis, wheel stop.
Atlantis, Houston, copy, wheel stop. Welcome back. Congratulations on a great mission. Good job installing the S3, S4, continuing to expand the space station in preparation for adding modules from more of our international partners and stepping stones for the rest of the NASA exploration plan.
Houston, we're on page 5-3.
Okay, we're with you on page 5-3.
At an altitude of 17,000 feet, traveling at 428 miles per hour.
Runway in sight.
Houston copies.
This is a view from the heads-up display. One minute to touchdown. Landing gear is down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Nose gear touchdown. Atlantis rolling out on runway 22 at Edwards Air Force Base, wrapping up a 5.8 million mile mission. Atlantis completing its 28th mission, leaving the International Space Station with more power generation capability and bringing home Expedition 15 astronaut Sunny Williams after 195 days in space.
Houston, Atlantis, wheel stop.
Atlantis, Houston, copy, wheel stop. Welcome back. Congratulations on a great mission. Good job installing the S3, S4, continuing to expand the space station in preparation for adding modules from more of our international partners and stepping stones for the rest of the NASA exploration plan.
Houston, we're on page 5-3.
Okay, we're with you on page 5-3.
Welcome back now. The crew of the space shuttle Atlantis is back on terra firma. Atlantis made a smooth landing a short time ago at Edwards Air Force Base, a backup landing site in California. Now, NASA officials scrubbed a re-entry attempt earlier on Friday at Cape Canaveral in Florida due to clouds and rain. The crew has returned from a 2-week mission at the International Space Station, and NASA prefers to land, of course, at Cape Canaveral, as I'm sure you all know, because it will now cost $1.7 million to fly the shuttle home to Florida on top of a jumbo jet. Well, if you've been in a good mood today, consider yourself in good company. June 22nd has been designated the happiest day of the year. What's the science behind this title? Well, Dr. Cliff Arnold of the University of Cardiff says sunshine is a factor. Well, he says with increased outdoor activity, people feel as though their energy levels are rising. Arnold also says people are making plans for upcoming holidays, and that helps trigger a bright outlook. I can tell you it is pouring with rain outside, so Dr. Arnold, Sorry, mate, you haven't got it right today. Anyway, we're all happy here. Well, sports.
Atlantis ist vor gut 1,5 Stunden sicher auf der Erde gelandet. Wegen schlechten Wetters in Florida war die Landung gestern verschoben worden. Heute leitete die NASA den Shuttle zum Luftwaffenstützpunkt Edwards in Kalifornien um. Die Astronauten waren auch 2 Tage länger an Bord der internationalen Raumstation ISS, weil es dort mehrere technische Probleme gab. Der jetzt anstehende Transport des Shuttle nach Florida kostet fast $2 Millionen.
Bilderbuchlandung. Die US-Raumfähre Atlantis ist zur Erde zurückgekehrt. Die bereits für Donnerstag geplante Landung verzögerte sich durch schlechtes Wetter in Florida immer wieder. Gegen 22 Uhr hat das Shuttle nun sicher in der Mojave-Wüste in Kalifornien aufgesetzt. Nach der Notreparatur an einer beim Start beschädigten Isoliermatte am Heck der Raumfähre verlief der letzte Teil der 9,3 Millionen Kilometer langen Reise ohne Probleme.
Stützpunkt Edwards in Kalifornien gelandet. Wegen des schlechten Wetters in Florida konnte der Space Shuttle nicht wie eigentlich geplant in Cape Canaveral runterkommen. Der Aufenthalt der 7 Astronauten auf der ISS war diesmal mit einigen Schwierigkeiten verbunden. Unter anderem mussten sie ein kaputtes Hitzeschild reparieren. Außerdem gab es einen Computerausfall.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's great to be back here in Edwards in California. It's just great to be back on planet Earth right now. And we had a wonderful mission. I would like to thank especially our lead flight director, Kelly Beck, and all the great folks working in mission controls. There were a lot of challenges on this mission, and they were all surmounted, and all the solutions worked well, and we had a very successful flight. So thanks a lot to everybody in Houston.
Hi, I'm Brew Archmo, the pilot on the mission, and it's great to be here at Edwards. It's a beautiful day, obviously, and it's a great place to land the shuttle. We're very proud that the mission is complete. We got the mission done. We brought the orbiter back in great shape, and we're here safe and sound at Edwards. And just want to thank everybody, not only here at Edwards for covering us today and catching our orbiter, but also the folks back at KSC as well as JSC who helped make STS-117 a very successful mission. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say how great it is to be here in Edwards, to come back from this mission that we flew. It was back when I was a captain, I was stationed here, and I used to come down every time the shuttle would land here, and I never thought that maybe I might actually be on it landing here. We appreciate all the great support and that we got back in Houston, and those that stood up at KSC, and then of course those that when we arrived here, so we thank you very much.
Hello, I'd just like to thank all the folks around NASA who made this mission a success, and a special thanks to all my friends and family who gave me lots of support during the mission. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Daniel Levis, and I just want to thank the entire NASA family and all the support folks that have given us an opportunity to conduct a very successful STS-117 mission, as well as the Expedition 15. We're a pleasure to be a part of this mission and have the success that we did, so thank you.
I'm Jim Riley. I want to say thanks for having us here in California, and just wanted to say that I'm really proud to be part of the team both on orbit and on the ground. We accomplished a great mission. We got everything we needed to get done, and we were able to even add a few things. So it was a really great mission all around for us, and I'm really proud to be part of the team with these guys behind us. Thanks again for having us, and I appreciate your interest in what we do.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's STS-117 post-landing news conference.
Let's go ahead and get started with a few ground rules. Please state your name, affiliation, and to whom your question is addressed. Also, please limit yourself to one question until everyone here has had an opportunity to ask one. I'll then come back around and if there are any other questions. Today, let me now introduce the panel with us. To my left is NASA Associate Administrator Rex Jevedin. To his left is Associate Administrator for Space Operations Bill Gerstenmaier. And to his left is Mike Leinbach, Shuttle Launch Director.
Good afternoon.
We'll let each member of the panel start with a brief opening statement, and then we'll move on to your questions. Rex?
Thank you, Jason. The STS-117 mission ended successfully today at about 3:50 Eastern Daylight Time, p.m., landing safely at Edwards Air Force Base in California. We had hoped to land it at Kennedy, but we landed safely at Edwards, and we're happy about that. We're pleased to get this very significant assembly mission completed. STS-117 is a very big mission for assembly of the International Space Station and for completing some of the adding to the power systems and structures there. And we're happy to get this crew back home. I was able to spend a few minutes with the families just a little while ago over in crew quarters, and they were all in great spirits and happy to have their family back with them. It was a great effort by the team, and it's a good day for NASA, and we're pleased to be here today having completed a successful mission.
Bill?
Okay, thanks, Rex. Again, it's my pleasure to be here. This is really a great and awesome mission. If you ask me what I'll remember most about this mission, I'll remember the teamwork involved, and I'll remember all the things that went right on this extremely challenging mission. You know, some of the teams that really contributed to the overall success, clearly the external tank team, who just did a phenomenal job. You know, I remember walking into VAB and seeing the tank with all the hail damage, not really sure in my own mind if we'd get this tank ready to go fly or not, but the team was so committed that I knew in my heart that I was going to give them a chance to go ahead and get this tank ready, and they really did a great job. Some of the other teams that are kind of unsung, the payload team that kept the payload batteries charged out at the pad while the orbiter was getting, or the tank was getting worked on back at the VAB. They did a great job keeping the batteries ready, so when the truss got on orbit, it operated and worked fine. The SRB recovery team, we don't hear much about them, but they brought the boosters back in time so they could get a look at the video and watch when the OMS blanket folded back. They did a great job doing all that work. The robotics team that designed the shuttle survey and the truss handoff did a great job. All the flight controllers who sent thousands of commands during this flight all at the right time and did a great job. The flight crew did a phenomenal job on orbit. This time the alpha joint worked exactly the way it was supposed to. We learned from the way the other alpha joint worked. The medical team that gave up their stapler so we could go ahead and staple the blanket back together, we need to thank them. The Russian and the U.S. team that helped figure out the problem and get us back in a safe configuration so we could get the computers back up and operating. So again, I can't say enough about how well this mission went, how complicated it was. And this mission is really a piece of exploration, if you think about it. Someday when we go to Mars, we'll fly a spacecraft about the same size as the space station is today. And we may have learned something in the charging environment or in the grounding environment that shows how that operates and how it works in space with a spacecraft of this size. And that may be critical data that's really important for us for exploration. So we may have learned something here on this flight with the computer malfunction that could pay huge benefits to us in the future. So we're really doing exploration today, and it's really a tribute to this team. I can say proudly that there's no better international team in the space business than this team that's working on this vehicle today. And that includes the Dryden team, who came in at the last minute and helped us with the landing out in California. So again, this team is ready. There's plenty of challenges in front of us. The team has to continue to get better. They still have to continue to learn more. I think there's even bigger challenges in front of us as we continue assembly through the rest of this year. So my hat's off to the team that really pulled off an awesome mission. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks, Bill. As you all saw, it was a beautiful landing out at the Dryden facility out west. We were fighting rain showers all day today, but my hat's off to Norm Knight and his flight control team. They worked the weather as hard as they could. I was watching the screens at the predicted landing times here back at Kennedy, and we did indeed have showers within the 30-mile ring, so it was no question the right call. It was a beautiful landing out there, right on the money. This officially starts the turnaround of Atlantis for her next mission, which is the STS-122 mission, set to launch in December this year. So we're glad to have Atlantis on the ground. It'll take on the order of 6 or 7 days to turn her around out there and get her ready for the ferry flight back to the Kennedy Space Center. So that should occur sometime next weekend, maybe the early part of the week following. So the team Atlantis is on the ground. They're feeling good. This also sets up Endeavour now. OV-105 is the next vehicle to fly. Endeavour hasn't flown in many, many years, and I know that that team is ecstatic now that they're #1 on the runway. So again, congratulations to Team Atlantis, Norm Knight and his team in Houston, and we're looking forward to getting Atlantis back here at the Space Center for turnaround. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. We'll now move on to some questions. Yeah. Mike?
Mike Schneider, Associated Press. Question either for Rex or Bill, whoever wants to tackle it. Up until June 8th, it had been a somewhat difficult year for NASA. With a couple obstacles thrown your way, I was just wondering if you could put this in perspective on what concluding this mission successfully now means to you know, NASA spaceflight and the manned space program.
I'll take that. You know, it's my sense, I had a similar question actually during the launch here. It's my sense that the agency and the entire team, our contractors as well, is a very focused team. We've got an ambitious overall portfolio in the human spaceflight area, but also in our science and aero areas, and we're accomplishing things every day, flying missions, launching missions, doing testing, and so forth. So I don't, you know, there's no sense in which I feel that we're a distracted agency. It feels like we're committed to the mission. I think the esprit de corps is very good, and this workforce is always ready to move forward and do the next thing.
Todd?
Todd Halverson of Florida Today for Mike Leinbach. Could you give us an idea of what you'll be doing with the orbiter over the next several days out of Dryden to prepare it to, well, for the ferry flight back here to Kennedy? And could you discuss whether landing out west will have any impact on your schedule for Atlantis' next flight?
Yeah, Todd will be glad to do that. There are several standard operations we do out at the Dryden Flight Research Center to prepare Atlantis for ferrying back. We offload the cryogenics for the fuel cell system. That's one of the first things we do. We purge some residual hypergolics out of the ship, very little, but we do purge some of those out. We put on a purge for the main engines and get those engines conditioned properly. We do mid-deck destow of the mid-deck lockers and whatever tiny or small experiments may be in there. And then prepare the ship itself for the ferry flight back. We have to put on the tail cone for aerodynamic reasons for on top of the 747 for the flight back. And those things all take about 7 days to accomplish. Weather permitting, we should get them done in 7 days and then ferry back. The turnaround of Atlantis for its next flow, we always bookkeep 6 days in a flow for a potential Dryden landing. And so when we don't land at Dryden, we essentially get those 6 days back here at Kennedy, and that becomes a little bit more time for us back here. So the fact that we landed out there, we account for that. We get a couple of days or so out of that 7 days. We take credit for a couple of days. For instance, the offloading of the cryogenics for the cells. So that's not going to hurt us. We had 130 days in the orbiter processing facility book kept for the next mission. We lost one because we landed a day late. That's not a problem for us. We should be in good shape for Atlantis for its December flight.
Thank you. Tarek Malik with Space.com and Space News for Bill. Bill, you've had a pretty challenging year getting to this point where you've kind of kicked off construction. Can you give me an idea of what the rest of 07 looks like for the station and for the shuttle fleet, and how crucial it is that everything in the stages as well as during these flights go according to plan?
Yeah, I think, again, as you look at the flights that are laid out in sequence, they have to occur pretty much in the sequence they're laid out. So they're pretty important they get done in that sequence. You know, we'll install the next little truss segment, the little 5 segment that sits out there that'll allow the outboard trusses to get moved and attached out there, and that'll get done on this next flight. We'll also bring up a control moment gyro on this next flight that'll be there to be changed out later. Again, this summer you'll see the oxygen generation system get activated again on board Space Station sometime probably in July or August, and that'll be good to see the U.S. oxygen generation system come online. Then in the October flight, 120, we have the node, which will get taken up to Space Station. It actually takes a couple EVAs after the shuttle departs to get that node installed in its proper location, and that's a pretty critical activity. And then we follow up the flight in December with the European Columbus module flying. So again, I think a pretty challenging period, a lot of work, but again, we're learning. And again, even this computer thing that we saw, there's similar type of computers in the Columbus module. There's similar type of computers on the ATV. We're going to go do our homework and see if we learned anything from this that applies to those other missions. So again, the team is really focused. They take the data in, they understand what's going on, and they apply it to the next problem or the next challenge that's coming.
Niharika Acharya with the Voice of America. I was hoping to get an update on Sunny Williams' condition, how she's feeling, and if there's a timeline about when she's going to go back to Houston. Is it with the rest of the crew, or will she stay a day late?
And I believe she'll go back to Houston with the rest of the crew, and she's doing fine for as a typical expedition crew member does, coming back home, and she should be going back with the crew on time. And if something changes, we'll let you know.
She's feeling fine.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Harwood.
That was my question. I just want to make sure somebody had answered that.
Peter?
Mike Schneider, Associated Press. If you all had any reports on how the thermal blanket repair held up on reentry, and then also either for Bill or Mike, or is the same thermal blanket on Endeavour going to be re-examined, or are you going to take another look at those blankets given the history on this past mission and then other previous missions?
Okay. Yeah, on this one, I got a picture, and you'll see it soon, that the blanket pulled back a little bit from the edge, so there's probably maybe a 1-inch gap maybe between where the tile was and the blanket. It didn't lift or didn't fold all the way back, but it moved back a little bit. You can still see some of the pins in place. I didn't bother to count the pins to see if they're all in there, but they're still in there. You know, the blanket was designed essentially, or the fix was designed to hang together through Mach 4, which is the high heating region. It clearly did what it was supposed to do through Mach 4, and then it peeled back a little bit. So again, we'll learn from this and see where we are. So I think the blanket did exactly what we wanted to do from a repair standpoint, and it looks fine. And we'll get some data to confirm that. We may actually pull the blanket back and take a look at underneath it before we ferry, but the teams will determine what to do with that. So that worked out well. In terms of the other vehicle, I think we already went out and we looked at the other OMS pods. We wanted to make sure that the blankets were tucked down properly, and I think the teams have done that. I think they also did some pull testing to look to see that the blankets have the proper adhesion. So again, that's behind us already for the August flight. And Mike, if you want to.
No, that's right.
Okay.
Vic Ratner from ABC. A little more on Sunny Williams, if you could. She talked about wanting to take a walk on the beach. Based on your previous experience and what you know from the doctors, how long before she'll be able to do that?
I don't know. I really can't answer that. You know, we can look back at the other performance, the other expedition crew members, but it'd be about the same kind of time frame. So, you know, a couple days or so, and she'll be in that kind of condition. But you can probably go back and look at reference to what we've seen before, but nothing abnormal or nothing different than we've seen before. Pretty typical for an expedition crew member, normal recovery.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today for Mike Leinbach again. Can you give us an idea of how you feel about the potential for getting 3 more shuttle missions up and down this calendar year?
Well, the teams are really psyched to do so. As I mentioned earlier, Endeavour is now first on the runway. So that team is extremely excited about the potential to launch in August. Then comes Discovery, a reflight of Discovery with Node 2, as Bill said. That team is well through their processing. They're right on schedule, I should say. And then Atlantis, as I said, we have sufficient time, really plenty of time in the orbiter processing facility to turn her around. So barring some unknown out there that can always crop up in this business, if we don't get one of those gotchas, I feel good about 3 more launches this year. I really do.
And this might be for Mr. Gevinen or Gerst. Barbara Morgan is flying on the next mission, and that obviously is a big deal. And I'm wondering what you guys philosophically think about Barbara Morgan finally flying, whether this is going to be a type of catharsis for the space agency, exactly what you're thinking going into this mission.
I'll just make some general comments about that. We're very excited for Barbara to get a chance to fly after all this time. I'm sure she's going to be excited about it. It's going to be a great mission. I don't think I would describe it as cathartic. I mean, I think it's just another step along the way, and we'll just be very excited for her to get her into space.
Okay. Mike?
Mike Schneider, Associated Press. Just a question. You had 3 spare days because of the, I guess, savings you did on the cryo. And would you ever consider doing that again in a situation, I guess, that didn't require, say, a contingency such as you experienced up at the space station, or is there any advantage to trying that again, just so you have more flexibility with 3 days as opposed to 2 days?
Again, I guess our plan initially was to transfer some of the additional oxygen to space station and increase the oxygen quantities on board space station. They were sufficient. So in this case, we thought it was best to give us some additional landing opportunities. So we went ahead and made the decision that you heard the MMT did to do that for us. The next mission will have the solar or space station power transfer system available to us. So we'll be able to stay docked for a couple extra days, for 2 or 3 extra days, while the space station provides power to the shuttle. And that should help us with the overall dock timeline. And that may couple back in and may give us a couple extra landing opportunities. So again, this is just one of the variables that the teams look at. They look at the weather, the time of the year, and figure out what the needs are of space station, what the needs are for the shuttle program, and the teams make the right overall decisions on what's best for the agency and best for our long-term positions.
Bill.
Bill Horowitz, CBS, for Mr. Gerstenmaier. You were mentioning the Russian computers, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to ask you a little bit about how you think we should characterize that. I mean, it strikes me that there was something there that's still the root cause, I guess, is still out there. And I know when they took those computers off jumpers and could not restart them would imply that whatever it was wasn't transitory, or wasn't a transient at least. How am I characterizing that right, and how would you characterize that in terms of needing to get it fixed before you get or understood before the progress goes with new equipment on board and when computers might be swapped out?
The teams are meeting still pretty much every day, where they're kind of going through root cause to try to understand what's happening. They're doing troubleshooting as you described, where we pulled the jumper out and then we tried to restart the computer and it didn't restart. What was interesting was when the jumper was pulled out, the computer continued to run. So that's an interesting piece of data that says that potentially this is a very marginal condition where something has changed just a little bit. And during startup transient, like when you turn on a light switch or you turn on a computer, there's typically an inrush of current that occurs, and it's an unsteady period until that device gets up and operating. So we could very well see just a very minor change in the grounding or power environment, very difficult to detect. Then that, coupled with this startup transient, is causing what we're seeing in the computers. So again, that's all theory, and that's what they're pursuing. They'll do some ground tests. They'll take a look at that. We'll bring some computers up on the Progress vehicle. Then we'll return potentially some of these computers, at least that's the thinking today, on the shuttle on the next flight. And then we'll get those computers back, and then we can go look at that power supply and that overcurrent protection on those boards and see if there's anything we can detect. So again, I think you're going to see a very long troubleshooting process over probably 3, 4, 5 months before we probably get to root cause. But I think as long as we've got enough understanding that the fix is in place, and for all the potential open items on the fault tree or the potential failures that could be there, if we can handle every one of those, then it's really no impact to us operationally. And that's what the teams are doing, going methodically through that process.
One quick one, and you may not have an answer to this yet, I don't know, but the computer gear that goes up on the Progress, is the long-range plan to let these guys run for reboost stops and things like that without jumpers, with jumpers, or is the new equipment going to have these power supply switches back in some kind of more nominal config? That's what I don't understand.
I think, I'm not sure, we'll have to check and see, but I think the intent is to fly a slightly modified power supply on those new computers. What we've seen in the testing was that this overcurrent device that tripped off was susceptible to minute changes in testing. So they made a change to it that essentially
put a time delay in where it wouldn't look at the current for about 200 milliseconds, and then that made the device operate the way that it does. What they may do is change that power on timing to be greater than 200 milliseconds, and this is speculation on my part, but it may be up to half a second to maybe a second, and that may be enough to get you over this transient period, and the computers would be fine. They'll do the analysis, they'll do the testing, and they'll determine then if the right thing to do is to put a mod in place, or maybe we would just fly the same computers with the jumper in place. And the teams will determine over the next couple of days what the right thing to do is. But again, you know, we're stable, we've got a good configuration, the teams learned a lot from this. You know, we're developing procedures now to operate without the computers. We're getting very comfortable with that. We're looking at the attitude capability of space station without the computers. It looks a lot stabler than we had thought originally. So again, over time, we'll understand what occurs, and then we'll also understand the consequences if it reoccurs again, and we'll be prepared for that. So I think by the time we get around to the August flight, we'll have a very sound plan of how we're going to go handle this stuff. And I think you'll see more nominal ops with these computers as we gain experience with them over the time.
Hi, Ken Chang, New York Times. Can you talk a little bit more about how you could operate without the Russian computers?
Yeah, basically we've been looking at some things where we could essentially use the U.S. control moment gyros to provide attitude control for the station, and then when the momentum builds up such that we need to saturate or fire thrusters, we're looking at techniques to use the Progress thrusters or the Soyuz vehicle thrusters to provide those attitude control or desaturation firings to desaturate our CMGs and then continue to fly. So that's one piece. We're also looking at the command side where we think we can send some commands to the ground to command some systems on and off. So we're slowly, the teams are working methodically through this to determine essentially a way to operate without the computers.
Tarek.
Thank you. Tarek Malk with Space.com and Space News. I think I just have a quick one for Bill. Bill, have you had a chance, I guess, to talk to CJ, to any of the other crew, and kind of gauge how they're feeling now that they're safely back on the ground?
No, I haven't had a chance to talk to them directly. I talked to Kevin Peterson, the Dryden Center Director, and he got to talk to the crews, and they seemed in great spirits. You saw them in the press conference walking around the vehicle. The only comment that I really heard was that it was kind of hot out on the tarmac. It was about 100 degrees and kind of dry and not much wind. But that's the only real report I've gotten from Dryden.
Okay, well, a couple of programming notes before we conclude today. There will not be a crew news conference this evening, and the crew will be heading back to Houston tomorrow. For more information on the Space Shuttle and other NASA programs, please visit www.nasa.gov. Thank you.
Crew aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis is getting used to gravity again. The Space Shuttle Atlantis touched down Friday at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Bad weather washed out plans to land in Florida. During its 2-week mission, Atlantis delivered a new crew member to the International Space Station. Shuttle astronauts also set up a new pair of solar wings on the station.
probably get over here so you don't have to move while you're on it. That's good. They're only that way. But if you go over here, you'll see it turning too. Do that. Jeff, be advised that your microphone is going on. I can't see him. Yeah, truck's in the way. I haven't shot him exactly.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here back at the shuttle landing facility with Atlantis. We had a very successful ferry mission across the country. It took us a few days, but it really went very well. Atlantis is in great shape, as you can see, and we're really glad to have her back here and get her processed for the next mission in December. So really appreciated the effort of all the folks on the ground team here to be ready to receive us, and it's just great to be home. Thank you.